Welcome into a very special episode 100. We are in the triple digits now. So today we're gonna try to do some fun things, but we've got some news today. The St. Louis Blues have signed veteran forward Milan Lucic to a professional tryout. Lucic, who is 37 years old, last played in the NHL in 2023-24 for the Boston Bruins, and he has had an NHL career spanning 17 seasons and four different teams. So the big question is, will he earn a spot in the Blues forward group for the upcoming season? And then, in addition to that discussion, it's episode 100. So we're going to do a live Q&A session with our viewers and listeners here. We've got some questions that we've collected over the past little bit. Plus, for all of those watching live, we will do our best to answer all of your questions. We'll also reflect on the first 100 episodes of Note News. So just right off the top, special thanks to all those who have supported us. We're excited for a fun one. All that and more today on Note News. Welcome in episode 100. As I said, it's a special one. We've been working, for like a year and a half on Note News, and excited to hit couple milestones this summer, including 500 subs and 100 episodes. So we are, you know, we are here pretty consistently. We do our best to do live streams twice a week. Sometimes it's less often. We've had some life stuff going on recently, so it's been a little less frequent. But we're here all off season long, providing Blues content. We'd love to have anyone and everyone that wants to be a part of the discussion. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I think we're up to like 515 now, so that growth is continuing. Keep it going. We appreciate it. Like this video, follow, rate, review wherever you listen, and then follow us on socials, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at NoteNewsPod. Alec, episode 100, man. Hey, congrats. You've done a lot of great work. You have done more episodes than I have. There have been a few that you have done on your own.
Technically, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't hit 100, I guess. But congrats to you, my man, on 100 episodes. This
No,
has been a fun
it all
year.
comes out in the wash. If we counted Instagram posts or anything, I would be behind by like 10,000.
Hey, it's all hands on deck here at Note News. But yeah, 100 episodes. This is we'll be in the triple digits for a while now until we get to 1,000 one day. 10 years down the line after the Blues have won like their ninth straight Stanley Cup and all that good stuff. But yeah, so I think we'll kick things off today. I mean, do you have any favorite memories from this past year and a half? I mean, there's been some memorable moments. Obviously, we're gonna talk Lucic here in a little bit, but I think just to kick things off, like, what stands out over the past 100 episodes to you as some of the highlights?
I think the Storm episode has got to be the best moment of Note News so
It's probably
far.
number one. Yeah.
Yeah, check it out on our socials. It's pinned everywhere. It's like one of the best clips that we've ever put. It's the best clip we've ever put out. And thank you to Mother Nature for the assist on that one. But yeah, John got John got rocked by a storm.
Yeah.
It rocked by a hurricane, I should say. Even though it wasn't a hurricane, but it was a really funny one. I really, really liked our discussion of how high the Blues can reach post that Vancouver win, because that
Mhm.
was maybe the highest moment of vibes and energy
Mm.
just around the team that I can remember in recent history or in of last season.
Yeah.
And that was one of those discussions where I started to see the pattern of how this could be repeatable and how it
Mm.
could be something they can actually rely on. And I would just remember that episode being a ton of fun. Um, and then another one I'll shout out. I remember covering the draft in our first year, the first time we had Mike and Sam on, were both really fun episodes.
Hmm.
Sam, um, we were talking either pre or post episode, like, yeah, we thought that would just be a, quick 30 minutes or whatever, and it ended up being like an hour and 15 minutes, and we could
Yeah.
have gone longer. And then with
Yeah.
Mike, I remember he and I were agreeing that the Blues probably weren't a playoff team. And then we had him back on for a post trade deadline episode, and we were like, "Yeah, we were idiots. Not to trust in Dougie Dimes and the Blues, but
Yep.
just some favorite moments of mine that so thankful to be here for 100 and
Hmm.
excited for the next 100 and so let's see how high we can all reach together, but also excited for the Q&A today to bring some of our viewers into the discussion. That's some of the most fun we have on Note News, just being transparent, is interacting with you all in the chat. So
Hmm.
thanks everyone for tuning in. Can't wait to break all that down.
Yeah, if anyone watching live has any questions they want us to answer later on when we get to the Q&A, just drop them in the chat, or hold on to them until we get to that point. Either one works. But yeah, we'd love to answer as many questions of yours as we can. But for me, I think the other things that come to mind, everything you said, of course, uh, the the Torpo meter was a highlight that started with a pretty funny moment and a fun episode. Yeah, I mean, having Mike and Sam on was always great. I believe I at one point throughout the regular season last year did a did a reading of a letter on
Yes.
on a live episode or something where I was sort of like telling the world that I was out on the Blues and I didn't think they were going to make the playoffs, and I was wrong to be hopeful in that and all that stuff, and then they won what 12 games in a row. So got a foot in my mouth after that one. Um, and then I mean some other moments. I mean obviously like milestones like 500 subs, and then that I think it was either the Byram speculation episode or the UFA reaction episode. We had like our highest live viewer count. Like it was our one of our best live streams ever, which was really awesome. Um, and then the last one I'll say is the playoff clinch episode after
Yeah,
the
covering
final
the
game of the season.
playoffs.
Playoffs was awesome, but after the final game of the regular season, we just like went on like right after the game, and we're just kind
Oh
of like, oh my
yeah.
gosh. It was just sort of our immediate reactions right after the game, and that was a late night, but it was worth it.
That was
Um,
a very, very late night, very delirious
yeah,
episode. Check it out if you haven't, because it's really funny. We
it's a good
were
one.
super tired and just like all raw emotion. It was great.
Hmm. For sure. Okay. Any other memories, or you want to talk? You want to talk about the quote unquote signing?
I was just gonna bring up the playoff stuff. Like getting to cover
Yeah,
a Blues playoff run was
yeah,
super
unreal.
special. So um, I think, yeah, yeah, I think we can get to the Lucic.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, playoffs always incredible. Super. I think we were pretty fortunate with the first season that we got to cover. There were like a lot of ups, a lot of downs, but it was pretty much interesting throughout. It was a great season. Oh, falling in love with Philip Broberg. I think that's another great memory. Um,
Yeah, the RFA episode.
that was fun. Okay, so as I'm sure all of our viewers and listeners, or at least most of them, are aware, the Blues have made a kind of a signing. They announced this morning, as we record on August 19th, that they signed veteran forward Milan Lucic to a professional tryout. Um, he is I read it at the top, but he's 37 years old. He hasn't played since 23-24. He was with the Bruins at that point, but he only played like four games that season. So it's been a while since he has played like a full season workload. That was in 22-23. Um, so a lot of ups, a lot of downs in his career. But I mean, his best seasons. I mean, I think his career high in goals is like 30 goals. He posted that in 2010, 2011. That was also his career high in points with 62 that year. So he's hit. Oh wait, no, I have that wrong. That came a few years later, 2013, 2014. His career high in points was. Wait, no, I had that right. Apologies, it's been a while since we did an episode. Anyways, he has a few times um, hit mid 20s in terms of goals scored, upper teens in terms of goals scored. He said a few more times, but really like historically has been pretty balanced when it comes to providing goals and assists in terms of his point production. Um, but I mean, 17 years he's played 1,177 games. He's scored 233 goals and 586 points over that span. But I think I saw your tweet, Alec, that you were not a fan of this move. I mean, what were your immediate reactions to this move, and what have you been thinking about it throughout the day?
Yeah, thinking more on it, I think has made me sort of realize what they're doing just a little bit. But in terms of immediate reactions, it wasn't super positive. I mean, it was just a professional tryout, so it's not like there's a lot of risk that comes with the deal. He's just going to be
Mm.
practicing with the team, and we'll see if he can earn like battle for a spot. And so immediate reactions were mostly negative, but I think as I sit with it more, I've been a lot more positive about it, because competition is always a good thing. It always, pressure makes diamonds and all that. And I think Jacob is right on it in the chat. Jacob says, unless he takes Joseph's job, he doesn't have one. I think that's exactly what Lucic provides. Is he is a defensive forward who can maybe net you 5 to, I don't know, 15 is probably too many, but like right on, right around 10 goals in a best case scenario. Um and he's a defensive guy, and if they can, I think I'm seeing some other conversation in the chat about about Matthew Joseph, is that he's younger, he's faster, but he's on a big contract. So maybe Doug Armstrong is looking to move off of that contract to set up for a big, potentially a big trade deadline. Even if it's just for future considerations, I think they could probably move off the Joseph deal if they really, really push for it. Um, and excuse me, Lucic could just be a cheaper, older, slower version of what Joseph could provide potentially, and also gives you another physical player to help support guys like Jake Neighbors and Braden Shen, who maybe could use another physical piece. Adding that type of puzzle piece back into the mix could be Lucic. So as I sit with the signing, I think it makes more sense. Again, it's only a PTO, so it's not like there's a lot of risk involved. And I don't really hate the move. I don't know if I ever hated the move, but I didn't like it. I'm kind of neutral on it now. I see the reasoning. I see what they were going for. And I appreciate the competition for young players like Texier, like Toropchenko, who I think we think Toropchenko has a spot locked up on the fourth line, but maybe there's an argument that he doesn't, and maybe he really has to come out and prove in his starting of where his NHL career should really be taking off as like a bottom or middle sixer. That maybe he really has more to prove, and that would be good for just competition's sake. So yeah, I think as I sit with the Lucci signing more, I get it, and it's not exciting, but this is also yeah. And then there's the other case that this is like another Jakob Vrana, and it's just like not not the right time, not the right player, not the right place, and in which case he'd probably be gone after like 10 games or whatever, like Vrana was anyways. So it's a very low risk signing with some upside. I'm not going to say there's a lot of upside, but um, if he makes the team, it's definitely going to be, I think, I would think over Matthew Joseph.
Yeah, I think you could. I mean, in terms of like who has a set role and who doesn't, I think you could probably throw Texier into that conversation as well. Not necessarily with playing style. Like I don't think Tex and Lucic are necessarily good comps, but like in terms of who's fighting for for that last spot on the bottom six, I feel like it's probably between those three, and two of them will get a spot, and the other won't. I mean, what this guy provides is that physicality, right? He has a lot of penalty minutes over the course of his career. Um, so I mean, I think you're probably right in that I don't see him getting a spot. I just feel like Joseph provides, you know, enough of that profile and is a lot better in a lot of different ways and has been playing for, pretty consistently, and he's younger. And then I mean, similar thing with Texier. He's been playing more recently. He's younger, um, so it is a little bit of a head scratcher. But I mean, hearing your thoughts on it, I mean it does I guess clear it up in my mind a little bit as well. But I think if it's even as simple as we just want to inject a little bit more competition into training camp, um, and if he has something surprising, great. I think if that's their thinking on it, then you know it makes sense, and I'm cool with that. Um, if it turns into anything substantial, I'd be really surprised, and probably I probably would be upset if it's Lucic over Tex. If it's Lucic over Joseph, maybe not. But I don't know. I feel like there's still upside with Tex, whereas the other two, you kind of know what you're getting more or less. Um, so yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think it's bad to inject a little bit of competition and intensity into the ramp up to the season. I think it can be hard for athletes to stay motivated season to season when it can be such a slog. Um, so I mean, it does seem like very very low risk, but also to be honest, low reward. Like it's not like there's going to be some crazy high upside here. Um, but I mean, worst case scenario is obviously he doesn't have it. They cut him. It's a PTO, so they're not committed to you know, keeping a contract with him all year. Um, but in your eyes, what do you like? What do you think is the best? Like, is there a best case scenario? And if so, um, yeah, like, what do you think the best case scenario would be? And I'm sort of thinking best case scenario in terms of he's better than we expect and he earns a spot, not in terms of they keep Joseph and Tex and cut Lucic. Um, yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't really know what the ideal lineup is like in terms of the bottom six because there's like now I think nine players for or sorry, yeah, I think nine players I believe or eight players for six spots. Um, and I don't know it necessarily like if Lucic in the mix it is the best possible lineup, but say he finds the fountain of youth and can you know come back. I would say he's essentially the Radic Faxa replacement. People might think that's Bugstad, but I think Bugstad could be more of a plug and play wing piece wherever you need him, sort of eat up minutes and be good enough wherever you play him. Versus Lucic gives that defense that Faxa had, who was my team Selkie pick last season. And I think best case scenario is for him is like 10 goals 25 points. It's not we're not talking about a barn burner of an offensive player at all.
Mm-hmm.
He's a fourth liner for sure. For sure he's a fourth liner. So that would be like probably Torpo. Walker's probably out of a spot in that case. But maybe if you keep him in and you just have Lucic, Walker, Torpo, and they just bully everybody in front of them. That could be kind of fun. I don't know. Again, I'm not. There's almost too much speculation you could do in terms of the bottom six, but I think best case is a decent fourth liner at best, and
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of a stretch because he hasn't played hockey in a year now. And is 37 years old and also is a lot slower than a lot of these other guys when the Blues are trying to win with speed and That was at least Foxa wasn't fast, but he was at least could skate with everyone else. So
Yeah.
I think I think best case is he earns a line at the fourth, earns a spot on the fourth line. And then Texier is an interesting one just because this team seems so out on playing Texier, which it really does kind of stink. I think people in the chat agree. And it seems like everyone like on Twitter online agrees that like there's at least intrigue with Texier. There's some upside if you give him
Hmm.
playing time, but they just don't want to give him playing time. It kind of feels like if Scott Perunovich didn't have like 3 years of run with the team, if they had instead just acquired Scott Perunovich like last season, um, and obviously as a forward, um, so I think Texier could earn a spot on the third line, but he's really going to have to impress. Which, as a 25-year-old, you kind of think this is the time that he really has to impress, anyways. So again, maybe this competition will really push Tex, and put him over the edge into being something great. But it kind of felt like that competition was there last season, and he still couldn't necessarily hold up. So I think I'm seeing a lot of uh to bring this discussion more towards the bottom six, just in general. I think I'm, I guess, pushing back a little bit on the Texier stuff because he's had the chance and he does have the upside, but in you know where you're trying to find upside is more at the top of the lineup. I don't really. I would almost rather have the safe, low reward option in the bottom of the lineup that can let Robert Thomas and Pavel Buchnevich and Jimmy Snuggerud do their damage. And if he can just like throw hits around and control the puck movement enough while he's on the ice, I think he can do that a lot better than the Texier. And so I'm looking for Lucic to be a on and off the ice enforcer where he has to literally battle for the puck and battle for a roster spot.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And you said like somewhere in the realm of 10 goals and 25-ish points. Is that right?
At like the high end,
At the best case scenario. Yeah. I
which is like comparable to what Foxa had last season.
Right. Yeah. That's pretty standard or a decent outcome for a fourth liner like that. Yeah, I think I agree. Fourth liner and similar production would be the best case scenario. I think Sam in the chat agrees with you, saying that if he does have a spot, he belongs on the fourth line there. I think we should have a longer discussion on Texier sometime. Maybe if anyone has a question for the Q&A later, we can have it today. But if not, let's definitely have that in the future. But yeah, I think Lucic. I mean, he's got the Montgomery connection, right? Played for him in 23, 24, and that could be part of the reason why he sort of earned a PTO here. I just think with the age. I mean, 37.
Yeah.
It's 37 and trying to make an NHL comeback is kind of a difficult recipe to work with. Not to mention, all of the off ice issues, which I don't think we really need to get into now. But there's plenty out there if you want to go read more about it. I just it doesn't seem like a good idea to me for a lot of reasons. I think there's a lot more promise, and not necessarily like worse. I don't think you're going to get much worse production from anyone that you already have. If you kept them over Lucic, and I think there's more upside too. So, for a lot of
Yep.
reasons, I think it's probably the right call to just let him make things interesting in training camp. Let him sort of push some of those guys like a Texier or like a Joseph who kind of need to earn their keep a little bit if they want to get some consistent playing time. Um, you know, help motivate those guys in training camp. But beyond that, I don't see it.
Yep.
Um, Anything else on Lucic, or do you want to go ahead and get into our Q&A here.
Um, I I think we can get back into it if anyone has
Hmm.
questions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so for all of those watching live, we are going to start our special, 100th episode Q&A here. So if you have any questions on the Blues, on, NHL thoughts in general, on Alec and I, on Note News, anything, I think for the most part, anything is pretty fair game. Just let us know in the chat, and we'll do our best to get to everyone's questions. There were some from earlier in the episode. We'll just kind of work our way through. But I think to start with, we put out a call for questions on our socials recently. So I think we'll go ahead and start with those. And then once people sort of watching live get their questions in, we'll switch over to those. But all things hockey on Twitter /X or whatever asked, is Dylan Holloway a point per game player? This is a fun question.
this is a
Um,
very fun question.
yeah, I think this was the first one we got. Just for reference, last season in 77 games, he had 63 points. So not quite a point per game player, but a much better season than a lot of us saw coming from Holloway. Point per game player. Man, that it's an
Because you
interesting
think it'd
question.
have to be like somewhere in the range of 25 and 55 to 35 and 45, right?
Yeah.
Like 25 to 35 goals, and then the
Hmm.
whatever the um, relative number of assists would be.
Yeah. I think it's possible. And I think he is at a point in his career where he is still there is still the possibility for a decent amount of growth year to year. With guys like Thomas and Kyrou, that curve is starting to, uh, I guess not bottom out, but come to its peak. I guess there's not like a
Plateau.
yeah, plateau. There's not a ton more growth that we can project for guys that are getting getting into their the later half of their 20s. But with a guy like Holloway, who was 23 years old last
23.
season, I mean it's insane. 20, yeah, he is almost he'll be 24 um, when this season starts. Super young guy. So the point is, you can still project some growth for a guy like Holloway. Um, I think he just seemed to get better and better as the year went on. That's why it was such a bummer that he missed. Um, he missed that first round because it felt like he could have made the difference there. Um, so I mean, I can see it. I can see it, and I think he is in a category of player that could sneak in to the Olympics discussion for Team Canada. I think it'll take, and I feel like I've been on this train for a little bit now. Um,
Hmm.
I think it'll take a fantastic first half performance from him, but I see it. I think the motivation is right. His talent is there. This team's talent is there, and then you know the ability to project some growth is there as well. So I see it. I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah, I think it's such a fun question. It's such a fun idea. And he's definitely like projecting to get there. I think there's a chance that this last season was a little bit on the high end of outcomes. So maybe the projection shouldn't be so exponential and should maybe be like more stepped, layered. I think he can be at some point in his career an 82-point player for sure.
Yeah.
Will it come next season? I don't think so. Will it come the
Hmm.
season after that? I still don't think so.
Hmm.
But at some point in his career, when he's 27, 28, even entering 30, can he get to 82 points? I think so. I think he's got the goal scoring talent, really the finishing talent that you look for to complement with his speed and excellent defense. Yeah, I'm all in on Holloway for uh, point per game or point per game plus.
Yeah, for sure. Um, we can sort of play this by ear. We got another question from Justin related to Holloway in the chat. How much should the Blues sign Holloway? I'd like to see 8 years. I think that's something that we agree with. 8 years would be awesome.
Yep,
I think
max
signing
term.
Holloway and Broberg, just similar twin contracts that we saw from that we saw the Blues give Thomas and Kyrou. I'd be happy with that. Max term and somewhere in the realm of $7 to $8 ish million. These are great hockey players. These are guys you keep around. Um, okay, we got another from T Benlin, I think, or Benlian. Um, that's T Benlian 51 on Instagram. What is a realistic point production for Snuggerud? I feel like a 60 point and close to 30 goal season isn't that outlandish. Um, this I feel like we've talked a little bit about this before, projecting some point production for Snuggerud. Um, Alec, what do you think?
I think I think 30 goal is a little bit much. I think that's like the high end of what you'd see.
Mm-hmm.
60 points, I think again is like the high end. He is such a talented skater, but he is still a rookie. I think a realistic outcome for him is like 45 points, 20 and 25. I think that is like sort of the benchmark I would say for a good season for Jimmy Snuggerud would be 45 points and 20 goals. I think he can do better, and I am actually projecting him to do better. But if we're talking about like realistic, 50th percentile outcomes, I think 30 goals is a really high benchmark. That's probably a little bit too much. I
Hmm.
think even like 27 might be like the upper limit of what you might see from a Snuggerud because he's such a good playmaker too, coupled with his great shot. Um, that I think I would like to see a little bit more, or sorry, I think I'm tempering expectations a little bit if I'm giving like a realistic number, and I would say probably like 45, maybe 50 points, but then we're starting to get into like above 50th percentile.
Yeah, I mean, I think the operative word in I think his name is Tyler. His question is that outlandish. It's like maybe a little outlandish, but not that outlandish. And I think I agree with that. I think that the there is the potential in Snuggerud to have something pretty close to a 30 goal, 60 point season, and that's assuming a lot of things go right, obviously. But I think for the most part, I'm with you, and I see something a lot closer to a 20 to 25 goal season, and maybe closer to a 45 to 50 point season. Um, so yeah, I think we're sort of on the same page there. But
And
I mean, if he can keep his first line spot and then play up to that level of competition, sky could be the limit for this kid.
yeah, I think Jacob in the chat makes a great point about power play usage. He is set to be on the first power play as of right now. That's where he can score a lot of his goals, I'd imagine. Because at 5-on-5, I actually don't imagine Snuggerud is going to be shooting like a whole lot because he really likes to draw defenders and take the puck and create space for his teammates. He's such a good playmaker in that way that I think is just so underrated about Snuggerud that I could see him having like if we're talking a little bit more than realistic, a 25 goal, 45 point, or 40 or excuse me, 25 goal, 40 to 45 assist season, somewhere in the realm of 65 points. Maybe even pushing 70, which would be an excellent, like an incredible rookie season. That's more the route I see Snuggerud taking. I don't know that the goals are going to necessarily come with Snuggerud. I think that's what Pavel Buchnevich is there for, or potentially Jordan Kyrou are there for, or even guys on the defense. But I think Thomas and Snuggerud are such good playmakers that I see that assists number being the route to points for Snug.
Yeah, I like it. I think that's a good projection as well. All right, moving things right along. Justin asks, will Dalibor Dvorsky make the main roster this season? I believe Sam as well asked, when is Dvorsky coming up for the Blues? My take on this one is I think we definitely see him, and I think we see him for an extended period. I don't think he makes the roster out of camp to start the season. I think we see something more similar to what we got out of Snuggerud, and what we've seen a few times over the years with the Blues and other teams as well, where Dvorsky probably comes up midseason sometime, plays, I don't know, maybe around half the season or something like that, or the last third or something like that. Um, I think we definitely see him for a more extended period of time than we got out of him this year. But I think given his age and what is currently in the forward group, I think it's unlikely that he's there all year. Um, yeah, I guess those are my thoughts.
Yeah, Dvorsky is such an interesting one. He's so like just his age making him so young makes this a really tough question. But I think with Dvorsky, what I'm looking to actually is the history of a guy like Robert Thomas, who
Hmm.
had a very sort of similar way that he came up at age 19, although he ended up playing, excuse me, the full season's worth of games at age 19. So I think with Dvorsky, what they know, what they have, I think they might be a little bit more bullish on his play style. I think he actually could start with the team out of camp and then get moved down to the AHL for a
Hmm.
little bit to see how the other pieces play out, unless he really takes that spot and runs with it. But more likely with Dvorsky, I think he'll look good and look competent, but probably not like ready. And then he can go dominate. Give him like 10 games at most to start the season. Um, yeah, Sam, I love it. Stop holding him back. I would love to see it. I would absolutely love to see it. Just give him the 3C spot and figure it out. Put Suter on the wing. Like I don't know. I'm all for giving Dvorsky the keys to the kingdom, but I don't think that's what they'll do. I think they'll be a little bit more careful. Um, and the other reason that I'm totally with you, Sam, with um, giving like Dvorsky just playing time like as much as he can get is that he's already dominating in the AHL. There's not a lot left for him to prove at that level. There's not a lot left for his game to be refined at that level. He really needs to adapt to NHL speed and NHL skating. So that's why I think a taste at the start of the season could remind him the pace of play and get his head in the right spot. Then you send him down for about half the season or so, and now that his mind is sort of in the NHL sphere, then he can take that and adjust his game in the AHL, refine it, and then you call him up the last third of the season and he's a monster ready to dominate at the NHL level. That's the path I would like to see Dvorsky take. But I am not sure exactly what their plan is. I think it's mostly just speculation. I think the low end of what we see is that he just gets the last third of the season, plays about 30 games, 25 games, and probably looks great in them too, towards down the stretch.
Hmm. Alec, have you considered getting into like I don't know, like player development or anything like that? At the NHL level. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think if he was to start out the season, it makes a lot of sense to not be unwilling to send him back down if he looks like a little in over his head or anything like that. And like you said, that way he knows for sure what he needs to work on to catch up to the NHL pace of play. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I think either way, whether he starts in St. Louis or not, he probably won't play the whole season. But I think we definitely get a much more extended look at him. And then I like putting him on the third line when he's here because I think having Pius Suter more than likely, more likely than not on that line, he and Dvorsky can both play center and can both play wing. Like there are some options there to sort of mix things up if you have to. So I think that could be interesting. Um, in the same realm of questions on young guys, 31 Teeth in the chat asked, "Who do you guys expect to have a breakout season besides Snuggerud?" This one's interesting because I feel like there's not a whole lot of options here. I feel like
I got a
the
take.
the breakout seasons mostly came last year, like Holloway and Broberg. Okay, what's your take?
I think of all people, I think Colton Parayko could have a real breakout season.
Okay.
Mostly just my argument here is mostly just um that he continues at the same pace that he was playing, but for a full 82 games or for, 80 or 79 games or whatever it is. he has a track record of health. In the 3 seasons previous, he played 80, 79, and 82 games. So he typically is able to stay afoot. And I think a full season of Jim Montgomery hockey plus Parayko still being relatively in the sweet spot for especially defensemen who age a little bit more gracefully as a 32-year-old. I think Parayko could break the 20 goal scoring mark and be like a top 10 defenseman in the league this year.
That's a fun one.
Hot take, I know.
It's a fun one. I am gonna agree with Matt in the chat, and I'm gonna take Philip Broberg. I think Blues fans and especially Note News viewers and listeners know that are aware that Broberg is a fantastic hockey player. I think a lot of people out there are, but he's not that flashy, point producing type. I think we see some more of that out of him this year. I think what's so great about him is how he affects play on the ice around him, how he affects the team around him. Offensively speaking, I mean, as an individual defender, he's amazing. But offensively speaking, what he does to his team's pace of play and his team's um, you know offensive production as an entire unit rather than as individuals is really valuable. I have gotten into this topic a lot. I call it Broberg theory. But um, but yeah, I see more in the tank there in terms of point production. So I think maybe another year, some more experience in the top four, some more consistent playing time. He starts to figure it out in terms of assist generation and goal scoring. And I think the team around him knows him a little better now and can set him up for those opportunities as they come. So I'll take Broberg.
Is that what your dissertation is going to be on? Broberg theory?
Yeah. I just started a,
Understandable.
a grad program for all of those. Other than Alec, who don't know, my final would be on Broberg theory. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I got
okay,
I got
so
one more for this question.
let's hear it.
That I'm going to stick on the defense, and I am actually buying all of the Logan Mayu stock that I can.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm really really high on what Mayu can be this season. I think his upside, as I know the Diet Bouchard comps get thrown around a lot, but seriously, like what he could do in an offensive system that didn't necessarily let him thrive in the AHL. It was still positive, but it wasn't a Jim Montgomery hockey coach team.
Mm,
Was already impressive. You put that under Jim Montgomery, who loves to activate his defensemen, something I talk about all the time. I feel like,
yeah.
and that
Monty
you
theory.
give that plus, yeah, give me Monty theory now. Um, that plus, if he's going to be getting, I don't know if he'll get power play minutes, but I think he'll get more minutes than I think by season's end he could approach like Justin Falk levels. And Falk
Hmm.
had a lot of chances to make plays on the puck, especially playing with that middle six. Guys like Kyrou, Holloway, Suter, and then Dvorsky when he comes up. When the team really starts to gel together, you got Dvorsky and Mayu potentially playing together, two young guys who aren't the smoothest skaters but know what to do when the puck is on their stick. I am buying all of the Mayu stock that I can. I think he could approach, I don't know, 40 points this season maybe. Um
Wow.
or somewhere close to it, as is even in his first season in the NHL. I'm all for Logan Mayu, and I think he's going to be such a fun player to watch in Jim Montgomery's system.
It might have been a maybe. We can think more about it, but that might have been a bold prediction. Can We'll be doing our bold predictions episode before the season, but interesting. I feel like Mayu is kind of the the guy with a question like this. I mean, he's like the only talented young player who hasn't started to break out a little bit already. So yeah, I think that's a good pick as well. Okay, we're sort of just going down through these questions in the order in which they came in. So we're a little ways back in the chat, but Jacob asked us to break down the conference a little bit, Minnesota, Utah, as well as other teams sort of around where the Blues are at, like Calgary. Um, who do the Blues have to worry about the most for a wild card spot? Is sort of his question. So I think we're gonna do a Central Division preview episode at some point, so we'll like really dive into some of these teams. But this is a great question because I think there is definitely a universe where the Blues there. I think that there is a fairly feasible outcome where the Blues this upcoming season uh, earn a divisional spot. You know, maybe that third divisional spot. Um, but I think if we're being realistic, the wild card race is probably more where we'll see them shine. Um, so in terms of teams that the Blues have to worry about, the first one that I think of is honestly Utah. I feel like
Yes.
there's a fair bit of growth coming for that team sooner rather than later. This year could be the year that they you know really kick it into another gear. So that's the one that springs to mind for me. I'm trying to pull up some rosters here, but
Yeah.
I mean Minnesota is similar too, although I'm not like super. I don't know if intimidated is the right word. I'm not super worried about the Wild. Calgary is a weird one. I feel like I feel like the curve that they're on is not one that's going up. It's one that's going down. So maybe they'll hang around a similar area as the Blues, but I think sometime soon we're going to see them start to regress a little bit, especially if they trade away Rasmus Anderson or other players like that. And then I see Winnipeg taking a step back and probably being more, although they did bring back some key players, but they lost Ehlers. I don't know. They do seem to be a pretty consistent regular season team, but I see them falling back to being like a little bit closer to that wild card conversation. I don't know. I've given a few. Alec, what do you think?
I think in terms of okay, so the way I think about this is the way I think about a lot of things apparently is like in tiers. So
Okay.
in the tier above the Blues, obviously Dallas is out of the question. They're better than St. Louis right now. They may or may not be my pick to win the President's Trophy. I think Dallas is kind of not really attainable for a ceiling that the Blues can reach. Um, I think that Colorado would be the tier above the Blues. So I think that it's reachable, but only in a very high outcome for the Blues. I think Colorado is probably your second team in the Central. Can the Blues catch Colorado? I think they can. I think Colorado's depth is really shaky. But I think like more than likely than not, 60, 70% of the time at least, I'd say probably 70% of the time, Colorado beats out the Blues in points standings wise. Um, and then Winnipeg, I think, is the one where there's a really interesting discussion here to where um, I personally, and I kind of said this on another episode, I see them taking a massive step backwards if they don't get another heart level performance from Connor Hellebuck, and they don't win 70% of their games, and especially with the loss of Ehlers, that's a massive offensive piece that they lost. I see them in the same tier as the Blues, maybe a level above, but in the same caliber of team to where you could still feasibly catch Winnipeg and even pass them. So Winnipeg is the team above the Blues that I'm looking for us to beat out for that divisional spot. If we fall to Winnipeg and are relegated to a wild card spot, which is just how things are playing out in my head, I understand that it could play out a lot of different ways, but this is just what I'm going with. Then I think Utah is the team behind that is looking to catch up. Minnesota too. Minnesota is always a pest.
Mm-hmm.
But Kirill Kaprizov is a kind of a health question guy, has been for some time now. And then their aging talent is really old. And I don't know. Gustafson is a good goalie, but is he like that good of a goalie to do it multiple years in a row? I don't know. I have more questions about Winnipeg than I do Utah. I think Utah is going to take a big jump in the standings, and they're the team in below the Blues. I don't know if they're in the tier below or if they're in the same tier. I think that's TBD versus Minnesota. probably in the same tier, but is below the Blues. That those are the teams you're trying to like push back and keep
Hmm.
down there. I agree with you. I think Calgary is kind of headed in the other direction. I think Vancouver's headed in the other direction. And Jacob in the chat, you mentioned Anaheim, which is a really interesting team. The
Hmm.
thing is, they'd have to jump up pretty massively in the standings to approach the Blues in the wild card race. They'd have to gain 16 points at least, which is a very big jump. I think they could do it. And to get ahead of this a little bit, Justin in the chat, I don't think McTavish gets moved. I just don't think it makes sense for Anaheim personally. I get that he still hasn't signed an extension, but I think Anaheim is just taking their time because they know they have a young star in the making. It would make zero sense in the world for them to lose, and they can match anything, any offer sheet or trade. They can just sign him at that point. So I don't think McTavish gets moved personally, and in that case, I have Anaheim as still having a really, really good young core. But I think they're more of like the Blues last year versus the Blues this year have expectations to be even better. And so I think there's still a gap between St. Louis and Anaheim. So I have Winnipeg as the team to watch for in terms of can we be better than them this season?
I think that's good. Yeah, I agree on McTavish as well. These are really fun conversations always to have. I think Anaheim, that rise is coming. I don't think it's happening so quickly as this upcoming season, but I think maybe the year following or after that, they'll definitely be more in this picture. I'm gonna throw a curveball, and I'm gonna say maybe as like a dark horse for someone who dark horse in a bad way for them as someone who could fall to the wild card race rather than the divisional race is the LA Kings. I was really underwhelmed with what they did this offseason. I think for the most part everyone was. I don't see Darcy Kemper repeating what he did in net. Um, they've got a good mix of young players and some vets, but I see some of those really
More
important vets.
vets than
Like,
young players.
yeah, I mean, like Quentin Byfield is amazing. But
Yeah, but
no, yeah, for sure. Uh, I think my point is that I think there are too many vets that are getting too old too quickly, and so I see some regression there. And then like, I mean, especially with what they did this off season, like they signed like what Cody Cece and who else? Like who else did they sign? I mean, like they didn't really go out and get an exciting player. They got some older fellas, but
I was convinced they were the Marner team.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure they could have done it. But yeah, I see them taking a step back, and then if things go well for either Calgary or Vancouver, I would probably lean Vancouver for that one. But you know, I could see a switch happening there, and the Kings being in the wild card race. Um,
I
okay,
agree.
let's move on to another question. Justin, like almost 20 minutes ago, asked, "Can the Blues trade Falk?" I'm gonna say I'm gonna say they can, but I'm also gonna say that they won't. I think it is a difficult contract to move. I think if they want to, if they're like committed to doing it, they could. I don't think they're that committed to doing it. Because who else are you going to play there unless you go out and trade for someone else? Um, and B, there's not that much term left, and it's kind of working well enough with Broberg there on the second pair. Um, so I don't know. I think with the rising cap, the amount you're paying Justin Falk isn't as atrocious anymore. Um, but I mean, I don't really see any other teams going for it. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you said. I think they can trade him if they really tried. I don't think they will. It just seems like not really the in-season trade that you know to leave that big a hole in the roster. Now maybe if Mayu has the season that I'm projecting, that they can move Mayu up and then play Tucker and Kessel on the bottom pair, or like um bring back, is Ryan Suter still out there? I don't know. Sign a depth option like that. to pair with Tucker if Kessel can't hold up. Um, if they want to see what they have in Kessel, like give him another shot, then I could see them moving on from Falk. But otherwise, I kind of feel like Falk is going to be their guy, for better or more likely for worse. But um, it just seems like a contract that takes too much to move, and they're looking at not giving up too many assets for it, which is prudent in a way, but at the same time, it definitely is, as you say, Jacob, a negative asset. He's really not providing anything offensively or defensively for 6.5 million. And yeah, you can stomach the contract better, but will anyone take them on? I don't know. Maybe you beg and plead San Jose and buy them a vending machine or
I
something.
mean, they took Nick
But
Leddy, right?
exactly. But um, and I don't think he gets bought out either. Per Doug Armstrong himself, he's never bought out a player and said he has no interest in buying out Falk or Letty this offseason. Maybe that changes, but I kind of don't think it does. Um, so I think they can, and I think they probably won't, and it just kind of stinks.
Yeah, I mean the thing is they're in a position where if they give up their second pairing right-handed defenseman, um, you're gonna want a sure thing to fill that role with where this team is at, right? They're trying to take steps, so you're gonna want a sure thing to fill that role. It's gonna be really difficult to find that sure thing. Um, so maybe if they have a deal lined up to get that sure thing, I don't know who it would be. If they do, then I'm sure they would then find a way to move Falk, but I don't see it happening. And I mean the trade market across the entire league is pretty quiet right now. I mean, we say this every summer. After UFA, the trade market's going to heat up, and it rarely does. So I think we're seeing some of that right now as well. But yeah, sounds like we're on the same page. Question from Sam: what is the difference between Jimmy Snuggerud and Dalibor Dvorsky? Both were picked pretty high in the draft. I mean, I think I'm sort of approaching this as what you're hoping to get out of these players. I mean, obviously, like we could go into comps and what we've gotten so far, but I think what we're hoping to get out of these players is Snuggerud. You're hoping he can be, a top line or at least a top six winger, scoring as many goals as you can get out of him, right? As many goals as you can squeeze out of him because he's got a great shot. Maybe make some plays, that kind of thing. And then obviously Dvorsky, it would be fantastic if he can pan out as that 2C. That's something that we've talked about a little bit as well. I think it's going to take some time before he's ready to take on that second line center job, but I think the upside is there, and I think he profiles pretty well to be able to take on that 2C role behind Robert Thomas. Um, but yeah, anything to add on that question?
Yeah, I think they are kind of similar-ish. They're both playmakers for sure, but I think Dvorsky is more of a true passer versus Snuggerud likes to manipulate the space a little bit more of like I don't know. In my head, I just call it a playmaker. Like he likes to do things with the puck on his stick. He likes to take the puck, skate, draw defenders away, and then make the pass. Versus Dvorsky is just looking at any time for the best pass available. If you want Blues comps, I'm not saying league wide. I'm saying like their closest Blues players. I would say Jimmy Snuggerud is maybe like Dylan Holloway, and then Dalibor Dvorsky could be like your Robert Thomas, to like the 60th or 70th percent of Robert Thomas.
Hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah. Keep these questions coming. I think we'll try to wrap it up pretty soon. But if anyone else has any questions they want to squeeze in, go ahead and send that as soon as you can. 31 Teeth also asked, how many points will Pius Suter and Nick Bugstad score? I think we can do individuals and not try to project a combined point total, although that would be interesting to see how many points the Blues added in total. Do you want to take this, or you want me to go first?
I'm actually really high. I'm surprised we haven't really talked Suter yet. I'm really high on what Pia Suter could be this season. I think Sam had an interesting tweet today. At STL Analytics, Sam had an interesting tweet to put Suter on the top line, and let Bugstad take the minutes at 3C, or figure it out there. But playing with Thomas could really push him over the edge, and he could be in the right spot at the right time. I kind of like Suter to repeat his career season that he had last season, and have somewhere close to 45. And I think he gets to 50 points. I think this is a really good Blues team. I think he's entering the right time in his career, and I think it's doable.
What was that? What was that? That number there?
50.
50 points for Suter.
Yes.
I like it. I like it. I think it might be a little tough on the third line, but I like that a lot. I mean, he had 46 last year. I think personally, um, personally, I think he is moving to a better team, a better situation than he was getting in Vancouver. Um, I'm sure, I'm sure that could be disputed. But I think there's a good chance for him to at least repeat the career season he had last year, scoring 25 goals and 21 assists. I think playing for a head coach like Jim Montgomery could help him out a ton as well. And really, I just think he's going to get a ton of opportunity to play in that middle six, either in a center position or on the wing. I could see him working his way up onto that second line at some point if the recipe isn't working with Braden Shen, or if one of those wingers go down, I could see Suter filling in on the second line. So I think that would be really interesting. Um, I'm gonna say because I'm really high on Suter mostly for what he provides defensively, but offensively, I think he's pretty solid as well. But in terms of point production, I'm gonna say 48. So I'm gonna and then it's gonna be that way. It can be 49, and then we'll both be equally correct. Um, and then Bukestad is an interesting one as well because he's had um, he's had all kinds of different types of seasons, offensively speaking. Last year in 66 games, had only 19 points. Year before had 45 though, which is his looking at all of the years. I think his second best season in terms of point production. I think he's going to be playing on that bottom six. You know, in the bottom six, probably mostly on the fourth line or I see fourth line center or third line winger for him. So for Bukestad, let's see. I'm gonna say he has a much better season than he does last year. I don't think he necessarily has a career year just because his career year came back in 2017-18 with 49 points and um, you know for the most part really hasn't performed at that level for an extended period of time. I'll say 30 points for Bukestad, and that's maybe a little optimistic, but I'm thinking somewhere around there.
Yeah, I was gonna go 30 points as well. I was gonna the case for Bukestad is the playing time. I think the playing time is there for him on this team, especially given that he has a 2-year contract. Now, to be fair, Matthew Joseph signed a 2-year contract, and so did Texier, but I think Bukestad is a little bit more of a sure thing. I think he gets the playing time, gets 60 to 70 games, and I think 12 goals, 18 assists is about what I'd project for him.
Hmm. Yeah, I like it. All right, I think unless we get a really good question as we are answering this next one, I think this will be our last one. Um, let's see. So Jacob asked, who goes on PK1
I
um,
love this question.
and 6-5 for end of game situations? This one is a great question. So um, in terms of PK1, and I think it's probably going to look pretty similar in terms of these units, but I think PK1, Robert Thomas um,
Yep.
is a pretty standard option. I probably want a guy like
Hot
Colton
take.
Parayko. What's up?
Hot take: Robert
Hot
Thomas will be on the ice in
hot
the most
take.
important situation of the game.
Hot take. I want Bobby T out there. I think. Okay. Here's my four. Here's my four for the PK. All right. Robert Thomas, Colton
Well,
Parayko.
it's 6-on-5.
I'm just doing PK1 for now
Okay,
because Jacob asked PK1 and six on
gotcha,
five.
gotcha.
I'll add a fifth as well. Okay. Robert Thomas, Colton Parayko, Philip Broberg, and Pia Suter. Those are my four.
Okay. I think Suter centers the second PK unit, which is
Sure.
why I
Yeah,
think
I could
it's
see that too.
Thomas, Broberg, Pareko, and I'm right in line with Matt in the chat. I'm going Dylan Holloway as
Ooh,
my
yeah.
um as my winger to support on the PK1.
I like that. I like that. I think, yeah, I guess my pick sort of maximizes the value on
Yeah,
that first PK. I like yours a lot too. In terms of end of game 6-on-5 situations, I think I probably would put Suter out there with Robert
I would too.
Thomas, and then honestly I'd probably just add Dylan Holloway, maybe I
Yep.
don't know, Matthew Joseph or another defenseman. I don't know, or I guess not another defenseman, but I probably would want Pareko, Broberg, or Fowler, whoever. Um, and then, yeah, I'm going to say Thomas, Suter, and Holloway. I think that's a winning recipe right there.
I'm right there with you. I got the exact same. I got Thomas centering, Suter on the left, Holloway on the right, and then you got Broberg and Pareko in the back. Even if they don't necessarily complement each other, which I think they can. I mean, just defensively, what they provide is not matched on this team.
Yeah,
So I think that's easily the best five for a 6-on-5 situation.
for sure. And that was obviously a big weakness for the Blues and has historically been an area of weakness for Jim Montgomery. I don't think we need to get into all the details on that because it's sad. But that
You
should
remember?
be, yeah, Blues fans remember. Um, but I think Monty pointed it out end of season and rightly so. Like that needs to be an area of focus because we saw it happen one too many times. So yeah, hopefully they can. Hopefully our recipes can help fix this. And for that matter, the PK was a big weakness as well, and should be an area of emphasis for them. Um, well, cool.
Yeah.
I think that'll do it for us on this Q&A. Um, but this was a lot of fun. I think we might try to do these a little bit more often. This was our first time doing a dedicated Q&A. But if people enjoyed it, I think we'll try to do it again sometime. Um, but until then, we'll be here, continuing to provide some Blues off-season content as we get closer to the start of the season, as we get closer to training camp and some preseason games and things like that. Um, so yeah, we're gonna try to do our best to be here twice a week. So if you want to join us live or listen after the fact, we'd love to have you. So subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Keep getting those numbers up. Follow, rate, review wherever you listen. We're on Spotify and Apple. That really does help us out. It helps get the pod in front of some new eyes and new ears, I guess. And then follow us on socials: Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Note News Pod. We post a lot of other great stuff um, on all of those pages. This has been a very fun, very special episode 100. Thank you to everyone who has tuned in live and asked us questions on socials as well. Um, I think that'll do it for us this time. And hey, thanks to everyone for supporting us over the past 100 episodes. It's been great. We will see you
Yeah.
next time. And as always, let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues!